Hi guys, and welcome back to the Blinded by Glory Fitness YouTube channel. I know it's been a while since I did a video. I've been traveling and a lot's been going on at the beginning of this year. Good things, positive things, but I'm finally back. And I actually intended to make this video a few weeks back, but once we got back from one of our trips, I realized that I no longer had my camera battery charger, so I had to order a new one and wait for that to come in. But I'm here, I'm still around, things are still growing great. Today I just want to give everyone an overview of what happened last year. I get a lot of questions because I talk a little bit here and there about my autoimmune condition and my health and things like that. But a lot of people don't know exactly what went into last year, what exactly was going on for the entire year. And a lot of highs, a lot of really low lows. So I'm just going to try to give everyone an overview and a play-by-play of what happened. The intent of this isn't for anyone to feel sorry for me. I don't want anyone's pity. I'm not trying to depress anyone. It's more of a message of hope. You know, there are a lot of people that struggle with not just my disease, but a myriad of autoimmune conditions or other diseases. And there's always a way to push through what's going on. Now, we're never gonna be 100%, or, 2 years ago when I had no issues at all, I'll never return to exactly that. I'll always have some pain or something I have to be cautious of. But I'm to a point now where I'm fully functional and doing what I love again through natural means. I'm not going to doctors, I'm not doing any of that. And I would encourage everyone to find their own method to get there. Everyone's not going to be the same. What works for me isn't going to work for somebody else, and so on and so forth. But there's always a way to lessen the pain or lessen what we're going through and to not let it control what we're doing. What I always tell people is, especially with autoimmune diseases, we didn't choose them. It's not a bad decisions we made. It's usually a slew of genetic factors and external factors all coming together and creating like a perfect storm, so to speak. So you shouldn't let what you can't control what you want to do with your life. And for the whole probably 6 months of last year, I did, and I got in a really dark, depressing place. I just thought my life had changed completely and I'd never do what I loved again. But once I got out of that mindset back into a positive field, I knew that wasn't the truth, and I gained control. And it was a really short amount of time, but it felt like forever during it. When now I'm on the upside and looking back, it's kind of like, wow, at least it was only a year, but I learned a lot and I've grown a lot from that time. I got some notes down here, so if I'm looking down, I'm not reading off a script. I'm gonna tell my story the best I can. But if I don't keep notes, I'm gonna go off on rabbit trails, and this is gonna turn into a 30-minute video. So I'm gonna try to keep it at 10 minutes or so, but also still giving a play-by-play of what really happened last year and what went on. Disclaimer, I am gonna try to edit in some pictures and they get a little graphic. So if you're a little queasy, maybe don't watch it or skip over those parts. It's the only real way to explain what was happening, was to show visuals. So I'm gonna I've cropped the pictures so they're appropriate, but they're still, like I said, a little graphic. And the only way to show what was going on really is through the pictures. So to get into it, things really started happening in January of last year, so 2018. But in retrospect now, this is actually something I've been dealing with for 2 or 3 years. I just always written it off as cystic acne or something along those lines. Really, the disease is called hydrangeus suppurativa. I might butcher that. I still can't pronounce it correctly. Abbreviated as HS. It's an autoimmune condition, an inflammatory skin autoimmune condition that basically causes, sweat glands to form a bacteria, then it tunnels through the skin and then creates an abscess encased in scar tissue. Very hard to get rid of. There aren't many treatments for it. There's no cure for it. And usually stage 1 and 2 are almost all the time misdiagnosed as cystic acne, or sometimes even an STD of some sort. But I kind of just let it go on because I've kind of dealt with acne over the last 6-7 years. I was like, well, it's gotten worse. I'm sure it has something to do with the sweating in the gym or something like that. And I just let it go. Stage 3 started happening in January of last year, and that's kind of when I started to find out that that wasn't the case. The first glimpse of it, I was back home traveling in Alaska. My body was under a bunch of stress because we were traveling. It was cold in Alaska. A bunch of my nieces and nephews got sick, so I in turn got sick. And it started out as what I thought was an infected ingrown hair. And I assumed I picked up bacteria from the gym, but it got nasty really quick, and it was only one spot. And I actually did like a telephone medical service because I don't have health insurance, so I just pay cash for my medical treatments. And after the phone call and the pictures I got sent up, they actually thought it was MRSA. So they put me on Bactrim, and in 4 to 5 weeks, I was better. And at that time, you know, I was just starting prep. I'd gotten home, I was trying to get better. I put some gauze over it. You know, I was in the prep mode, so nothing was stopping me from doing prep. It didn't matter if I was sick, it didn't matter if I was in pain, I was doing my prep. I go on taking the antibiotic, not optimal at the start of prep, obviously, but I had to run the full course. So I ran a 2-week course of Bactrim, and it took another couple weeks after that to fully heal, but it seemed that there was no more infection after the 2 weeks. So it did eventually close up and cover up. Kept pushing forth with the prep. And then towards the end, I started getting a lot more of these nodules, is what I refer to them as. They weren't open yet, they were just hard lumps, and I was just saying, you know, ingrown hairs of some sort. I'm just gonna let them be, try not to mess with them. And then, as prep got more stressful and so on and so forth, my body was being more taxed. That's when they actually started to open up and they start to ooze and extremely raw and painful. And I kept pushing. I was like, well, nothing's gonna stop me from prep. You know, I don't know exactly what this is, but I can't go to a doctor because I can't be put on antibiotics. So I'm just gonna keep going until after the show. Well, after the show came and won my overall in Utah, basically what happened was I got a severe sinus infection. And my theory behind this now is, you know, I was already sick as far as the autoimmune issue goes. Then my body got extremely taxed while I was flared up, as in the stress of traveling to the show, doing the show, and then coming back, and my immune system was just trashed. So I came back, I got a severe sinus infection, got to the point, because I was on prep still to USA's. I had 5 more weeks to make it to USA's to try for my pro card. And it got to the point where, you know, I was on the treadmill and almost passed out a few times. So I talked to my coach, I went and saw a doctor, and I did have a sinus infection at the doctor's office. I didn't even mention the other stuff going on because I was in the mindset I was still gonna do prep. And it just got to the point where I couldn't continue. You know, it was getting to the point where I could barely even walk, not because of the sinus infection, but because of the pain from the HS itself. And so I was put on, again, another course of antibiotics for the sinus infection. I beat that, and really it was, that is when stuff started getting really bad. I came off prep for USA, so I was already upset about that. I started eating like garbage because of being upset, and I'd been on prep for 19 weeks. You know, I was only like 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks out from USA's when I'd come off. I was looking really good. I was happy with the package I was bringing. You know, I was confident. And then all of a sudden, I can't move. I was thinking there's just no way I'm gonna get on stage. And I wanted to push so bad, but mentally I was in a horrible place. Physically, I was in a really rough place. So anyway, the rest of the month kind of went kaput. I went from stage weight of 205 to 255 pounds at the end of the month, which didn't help the rub and the friction, the aggravation of the HS, the foods I started eating, because a lot of this is controlled through dietary means, definitely were not helping the HS. You know, I was eating everything I couldn't eat for the last 6 months in mass amounts, and it just wasn't stopping. I was, you know, borderline depressed, I'd say. So it basically got to the point where I started looking for answers. I did some of my own research and was able to conclude what I thought it was, which was HS, which is funny because it's not very common in men. And like I said, it's commonly misdiagnosed. So I actually self-diagnosed before I got any diagnosis, which I know, like using the internet and stuff, a lot of self-diagnoses are way off. But it ended up going to a cash clinic out here and starting to see a doctor who was just a general practitioner. He wasn't a specialist. Usually you see dermatologists for the disease, and he had never seen anything like it. So we took video, we took pictures, he wrote down all my symptoms, and then they have a service where they can contact specialists and feed video feed and pictures and whatnot over to the specialist. So we talked with a derm, and it was confirmed a week later that I had hidradenitis suppurativa. I was put on a course of 30 days of antibiotics. So I got a topical and I got an oral. That oral antibiotic destroyed me. Like, I couldn't get off bed, my stomach, I was eating maybe 2 meals a day. I was bloated, I felt extremely lethargic, and I had just quit my job and gone to full-time training, and I lost all the momentum I had leaving my job. You know, I was telling clients, you know, I can't walk today, I can't come in. And here they are, not really knowing what's happening with my health, because I wasn't telling many people at the time because it's somewhat embarrassing almost. And I just don't like accepting, you know, that something's defeating me or getting me down. So it was more so I was telling clients I was sick, but I wasn't telling them to the extent of what was going on. A couple of weeks in, antibiotics weren't helping at all. In fact, it was progressing worse. And I'll show you some pictures here after this of how bad it actually got. I was pretty much bedridden at this point. Mentally, again, really bad place. I was telling myself, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna do if this is the rest of my life. It's like everything I loved had gone out the window. And then I had another meeting with my doctor, and he actually told me during that doctor's appointment that I might have to quit bodybuilding, basically change my entire life. And I've built, you know, with the personal training, the supplements and everything, my life around that. And he was saying, well, is bodybuilding more than a hobby to you? Because if it's just a hobby, you need to give it up. I was like, you know, it's a lifestyle. I've built my life around this. After that, I never went back to that doctor. They called me after my 30 days where antibiotics were up, and basically said, asked me how I was doing. I said, no better. He asked me how the pain was. I said 7 out of 10 on a daily basis. I can't get off the couch. He asked me if I was sleeping. I said no, I was honest. I was sleeping maybe 2-3 hours a night because I'd roll over and things would rut. And I'd just wake up. I couldn't sleep after that because I was in so much pain. Things got so inflamed that they were throbbing throughout the day. It wouldn't even matter if I would move. They would sit there and throb. I started getting headaches. I started just basically sleeping my day away, or trying to sleep my day away, because I'm just sitting there in, you know, pain. So I literally laid on the couch. I was getting mad at my wife. I was getting mad at my dogs. Everyone was just trying to help, and I was just angry. You know, I didn't understand what was going on. I kept, you know, saying to myself, why me? You know, I've lived this healthy lifestyle, and it's not like I'm a bad person. And that's when the mindset got really bad. I would say there were probably 3 months of last year where I was just ready to call it quits and be like, what happens, happens. I'm just gonna live out the rest of my days on this couch. And basically, after I didn't get any help from the doctor, and he was trying to push oxy on me and then anything to help me sleep, because he's like, well, if you're in so much pain you can't sleep, you're not gonna heal, which makes sense to me. But I told him, you know, physically I'm destroyed right now. I'm not gonna go ahead and destroy my brain too. And I know that if this relieves the pain, it's not gonna be something I wanna stop. So I turned it down, didn't even contact the doctor again. Very nice guy, nothing against him. They run a very great clinic out here, and I'm sure they help a lot of people, but the doctors don't understand the true nature of the disease. And it's that way with a lot of autoimmune diseases. So you just prescribe prescription after prescription until they find one that might help you. In a lot of cases, they never find anything to help you. Anyway, after I got out of this kind of little slew of going to the doctors, this self-pity, just being mad at everything and everyone, I finally woke up one day and it was just like, almost like a voice calling me saying that, you know, you're not done yet. And sorry if I get a little emotional, but it only took the one day for me to get back to being myself almost. You know, I said no more. I said I wasn't gonna let this beat me anymore. And that one day turned everything around. I promised myself and everyone around me that I was gonna get better no matter what. Sorry, just trying to compose myself. It was a tough time. Anyway, things started getting better, and well, they didn't start getting better right away. I just told myself they were gonna get better. I wasn't gonna let this thing defeat me and bring me down. You know, I'd always conquered every other roadblock in my way through my entire life. I'd worked extremely hard my entire life, and I wasn't gonna quit. So that day, I made the decision to spend all my time I could researching the disease and understanding the disease and how I could beat the disease. And I tried everything. There was a month to where I was taking 30 different pills a day, different natural supplements, things that just sound crazy. I just thought, you know, if it worked for somebody or could work for somebody, it can work for me. And I finally, after a month of trial and error, designed a plan specific for me in bodybuilding. I had to change my workout style, I had to change my cardio style, extreme changes to the diet. If you have specific questions about any of this, please contact me. I love sharing about it, but the video is already too long, so I'm not gonna go into depth on it. And then I started a natural supplement regimen. It took about 2, 3, 4 weeks of all this trial and error to where I finally stopped seeing new abscesses form. At the worst, I had 16 in my inner thigh groin area, and it was in so much ridiculous pain. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through, and finally I started seeing positive improvement. And you can ask anyone around me, it was like a switch. I went from being, you know, so angry to just nothing could get me down, and that's still where I am today. And slowly over the next 6 months to this day, I've gotten better. I'm almost in 100% remission, and I just started prep for, you know, junior nationals. So hopefully throughout this, it doesn't flare back up with the stress, but I know that if it does, I'll find a way to stop it again and control it. And I will achieve, you know, my dreams of competing on the national stage and one day winning my pro card, and I'm not gonna let anything stop me. Business is booming. Mindset has never been better. I've never been more excited about a prep. I find joy in the smallest things now. You know, I go to work. On top of personal training, I actually am shadowing a man on how to flip houses right now. So I labor for 8 hours a day, and I tell him constantly how appreciative I am to be able to be out there working manual labor again, because there was a time where I didn't think I was gonna get off the couch anymore. And I know this was such a short amount of time, and some people have been dealing with this disease for years, but it was like my entire life got flipped upside down in the span of 6 months. And last year, high highs, extremely low lows, but I am extremely thankful for it. Just like every other adversity in my life, I've grown from it. I think there's a reason it happened. It's made me a stronger person. I think physically, mentally, and everything, I can push harder than I ever have before, because nothing will compare to the pain I was in last year. And I'm just extremely thankful for everyone who's been around me and supported me through it and kind of helped me get to where I am, because without that support, it would have never happened. And now I've got the continued support through this prep. I just started, and we're 16 weeks out here tomorrow, so we started a little early this time. And I do want to give a shout out to my coach specifically. We were actually, when I started first getting better, we started prepping for nationals 12 weeks out. I was like, I need to do something, I need to get back in the groove, and it helped me right away. But it was just, I wasn't healed enough, and things got really bad 4 weeks in, so I actually came off prep. But Antoine with Team HD actually just kept talking to me throughout this entire time. So I had a hiatus from October until now, to where we were just communicating and kind of designing a plan, because I kept telling him, I'm gonna do my national prep next year. We just have to design a plan. So he sat there and he listened to me, and we've designed a plan around my disease, and we're gonna get to nationals this year. So big shout out to them. If you're looking for coaches that are gonna listen and basically care about you, which is very uncommon in this industry, you know, hit up Team HD. It's just great, you know, 2019 is gonna be a positive year, and I hope anybody who watches this, who's in a dark place right now and is dealing with some sort of illness, ailment, just understands that there's always a bright side, and there's always a way to better your situation. I mean, it might not be like my situation where you're in complete remission, but there are ways to alleviate the pain naturally and to hopefully help the actual disease naturally. And if you have any questions, especially in the autoimmune realm, I've done hours, days, weeks of research for my own, you know, issues. So if you have any specific questions, I'm here to help, I'm here to answer. I don't want to put a plug in for my training, but if you're one of those people, physical fitness does help these diseases. You know, our bodies, that is what regulates basically everything going on in our body, is basically our health and our fitness and our nutrition. So if you have any specific questions, you know, contact me. We'll talk about building a training plan. Unfortunately, it's what I do full time. If I could do it for free for everyone, I would, but it's just not feasible. So contact me and we'll talk about designing a plan around the disease and getting you healthy again to where you can actually exercise, and you can. Because I understand, I mean, the pain gets to the point where you just don't even want to move. But I think that's all I had to say for today. Sorry for the little choke up in the middle. It's an emotional story for me. Like I said, the pictures hopefully weren't too graphic for everyone. Anything at all, any questions about my journey, my disease, my upcoming prep, please feel free to contact me. If you like the video, I'm gonna start doing them more often again. So I'm gonna try to shoot for a weekly video all through prep with updates, not only on the physique side, but health side. And comment down below, like, subscribe, you know the deal. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, guys.